Welcome back to Workshop Wednesdays. One thing that some people might not know is that we have a fire museum here at Essex. And today I'll be having a look at a couple of their vehicles and some of their equipment, joined by the volunteers that we have here. We'll be looking at the Albion Merryweather and the National Fire Service ATV. So join me and the volunteers to take you around and give you a little tour. Let's go. Okay, Mike, so this is an ATV. From the National Fire Service, is that right?
That's right.
And yes. Around World War II, was it?
World War II, yes.
What can you tell me about this, Mike?
This is, I have to say first of all that this is my favourite fire engine in this museum.
I can see your face light up.
Because it was the first fire engine that I ever saw as a very, very small boy, complete with this grey National Fire Service livery. It's Austin vehicle. It was produced at the request of the Home Office from about 1941 onwards through 1942, largely to tow a trailer pump and to offer the firefighters a degree of comfort and protection that they hadn't had on vehicles like the Merryweather that we were looking at earlier.
Yes, this is a lot more enclosed, typical
more
sort of
enclosed.
Yeah, safer environment.
Having said that, this particular example has been quite extensively modified. We've got it on loan, so we can't make any changes to it. But in its original version, it wouldn't have had the fog light at the front.
Right.
It wouldn't have had the two spotlights there.
Yeah.
The headlights would have been shaded, and it would have had on the offside front mudguard a yellow triangle with the letters NFS on it.
Yeah.
All vehicles supplied originally to the Auxiliary Fire Service and subsequently to the National Fire Service were painted grey. In part, that was to make them less visible, because there are recorded occasions during the Second World War of enemy aircraft actually machine gunning firefighters when they were in action.
Wow.
So the grey livery is standard wartime livery. This one we have slightly changed so that the code lettering on the side shows it as belonging to a Chelmsford fire station in the time of the National Fire Service. The whole vehicle, its trailer pump and the attendant mannequins recreates an incident in Chelmsford in December 1944 when a V2 rocket struck a Hoffman's ball bearing works in Chelmsford and caused a considerable loss of life amongst the workers and people living in the vicinity, and started a very serious fire. So a vehicle like this would have been one of several that attended the fire.
So that's really interesting, because I didn't realise that V2 got this far. Into Essex.
Yes, yeah.
Wow,
quite a lot of V2 strikes in Essex.
Wow, and this is what would have responded to the
this was
subsequent
a vehicle
fires.
that would have responded. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So this is the National Fire Service.
This is National.
And then you've got the Auxiliary Fire Service.
Yeah.
At workshops we've got the AFS sheds that we call them. So that would have been part of the Auxiliary Fire Service?
No, the Auxiliary Fire Service existed from 1938 until 1941. And in 1941, all the fire services, Auxiliary Fire Service and the existing local authority, largely municipal fire services, were all merged into the National Fire Service. You had one fire service that covered all of Great Britain, from the top of the Shetlands to the Scilly Isles.
Wow, brilliant. That's really interesting. So what do you know what ladder this has got?
I think, again, this is a 30 foot or 35 foot ladder in the back. The back of this one has been extensively modified, because these vehicles were produced with some haste to very basic standards as a stopgap measure, and they carried on in service much longer than anybody envisaged after the war. There are records of them carrying on through the 50s, 60s, particularly in rural areas. A village fire station would have had one of these probably into the 1960s. Some of them were sent to Europe after the end of the war to replace equipment that had been destroyed or looted during hostilities. And Brussels Fire Brigade had one of these on its fleet list as late as around 1970.
I can imagine there's not many of these left. I mean, my first experience with these was a recent show courtesy of the Norfolk Fire Museum. Thank you very much. And these this chassis, it looks very similar in my eyes to what the ambulances were like.
Yes,
potentially.
I think it might be.
What chassis is this?
This is Austin K2 chassis,
right? Okay.
Commercial chassis. Yeah,
right. That'll be interesting to find out if it was similar. Because it makes sense, wouldn't it? From an economical point of view, obviously, to do that. But yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's really good that we've got it still here, and we're lucky to have it.
Oh yes, very lucky. Yeah.
And just to quickly talk about the pump that we've got at the back. What's that?
This is a Coventry Climax pump. We've got 2 trailer pumps in the museum. A Coventry Climax, which is behind this ATV, which stands incidentally for auxiliary towing vehicle, and a bigger Dennis trailer pump over there. So it would have towed normally one of those. It's usually the bigger Dennis that you see in most pictures behind them.
So I'm guessing it wouldn't have actually carried water as such.
It didn't carry water as originally delivered.
But they were modified, were they, later?
They were modified later. The Home Office came up with a kit right at the end of the war, which enabled you to put a 100-gallon tank in the back with a hose reel on top, and a little hole was cut each side that you could pay the hose reel out, and so you had got a fire engine that had got a water supply on it and could get to work as soon as it got to the fire.
It's interesting that you tell me that it also could convey patients in it if needed be, but I didn't understand that would happen. I guess at the time it was do what you can to get people safe.
To get people.
Make everything safe.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, Mike. Tell me about the Albion Merryweather we've got here.
1930 Albion Merryweather fire engine. Albion were a commercial vehicle manufacturer based at Glasgow in Scotland. Merryweather in 1930 were probably the world leader in fire engineering, well-known builder of fire engines.
Yeah.
While we're standing in front of it, the first point to make is there was no self-starter on this machine.
Yeah.
You had to start it by cranking the starting handle.
I imagine that was a lot of effort.
A lot of effort, particularly on a cold
day,
morning,
I imagine.
Yeah.
So tell me about how many crew would this have?
This could carry a driver, an officer in charge, and up to 8 firemen, 4 each side on the back, although 6 was probably a more realistic, comfortable number. You sat in the open on the back and held on to whatever was convenient.
I suppose, isn't it? Yeah.
Could hold on to.
I bet. And you've got a ladder there. What type?
A 30-foot standard sort of wooden fire brigade ladder.
And then the pump at the back. What pump is that it's got?
That's a Merryweather Hatfield pump. That was a pump manufactured extensively in the 1930s by Merryweathers and marketed either as an integral part of a fire engine like this, or it could come in a trailer pump version.
That's good. For anybody that's watching, it'd be curious to find out why it's got an air vessel just on top of the pump there. But we see it's got a hose reel and obviously the classic brass bell there to let everybody know they're coming on. And I guess these are hard suction.
These are hard suction hoses.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. Cheers for that. Right, so we are here with
Mick.
Fantastic. One of the volunteers down here at Essex Fire Museum. One thing I didn't know is that you've got a fire safety room. Can you just tell me about what you've got here?
This room was built by the volunteers, and it's designed to bring members of the public in when we have open days and large visitors groups.
Yeah.
We bring them in here and we actually show them the dangers in the home.
Yeah. Some of them
that can cause a fire, obviously.
Yeah, that aren't quite obvious. So, you've got my hair straighteners here.
Yeah, and mine.
Yeah, and the hairdryer I've got. Yeah. So, what's the dangers around this?
Well, the danger, these generate heat to do their job, obviously, quite properly. But if you actually inadvertently put them down on a bed or a chair, then that obviously could cause a fire. It's very, very dangerous.
Some of our handiwork here. It's not so good, is it?
It's not so good. That is a homemade mend to a cable.
Yeah.
Again, can be quite dangerous. And of course here we've got a grossly overloaded plug block. And that will actually overload, cause a lot of extra heat, and that extra heat will generate a fire.
And then you've got the sneaky little charged up mobile phone here.
Sneaky little phone charger under a pillow here that I'm told people do. Should never charge a phone or anything. Or a tablet or an iPad, anything like that at night time.
Yeah.
Because you're asleep, you don't know what's happening. Do it in the daytime when you're around. So if anything does go wrong, you can react in a positive way to it.
And to add, like we've had recent incidents with like e-scooters, e-bikes, etc.
Yes, yeah.
People charging them in hallways. So obviously be very cautious around that as well.
Very dangerous.
Brilliant. So let's take a step through to
into the kitchen. Yep.
Let's have a look what's through here.
Good. The kitchen area is probably one of the most dangerous places in the home. Of course, we've got the cooker here, and there are a number of very dangerous things going on here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we've got a chip pan. That chip pan has been left on the heat. It's got extremely hot, and it's ignited.
Yeah.
Thing to do: get out.
Yeah, get out.
Get out of the kitchen.
Stay out. Right. Call the fire brigade.
Also, we've got an aerosol near the cooker. If we've got the cooker on, then that could actually catch a lot of heat from the jet or from the ring. We've got cooking oil here. Same thing could happen.
Yeah.
When they get too hot, they will ignite.
Absolutely.
Also, we've got a grossly overloaded plug block again in the kitchen, and we've got a kitchen cupboard directly over.
Yeah. Especially with a toaster as well.
And a toaster as well. That's doing the same thing, generating heat. Heat is being driven up, and that could actually cause a fire, particularly if you've got flammable material inside.
One thing I will do when I get home is move my toaster.
Good idea.
We'll say that.
Idea. So be very careful about that.
So just behind you, coming into the cooler months now, potentially, we've got a heater there covered up. What's the issue with that?
Well, the issue, if you put a cloth or a towel over an electric heater, then the electric heater's on, that will generate heat, and the towel almost certainly will catch fire.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for those tips. So thank you for showing me around.
That's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Good.